Left-right combination, and Peyono has been stretched on the canvas, and he doesn't know where he is. He's face down. Oh, shit! Dropping to the floor here in the first round. Boy, a solid connection by Tapales. I don't think he's standing up. This is done.
Dear friends, today's video is dedicated to the technical breakdown of the fight between Naoya Inoue and Marlon Tapales. Don't forget about the likes, comments with 4 words, and subscribe to the channel. Here we go! You'll be surprised, but in spring of 2024, Naoya will turn only 31. For such a short period of time, the relentless Japanese already managed to become the world champion in 4 different weight classes, and all more so, in case of a successful performance against Marlon Tapales, he can be the undisputed world champion for the 2nd time. How did he do that? The answer is rather simple and even trivial: discipline and consistent hard work. Inoue Sr. was drilling his kids from a very young age, and better believe their training was no worse than that of USA Marines. Run through woods and mountains, swimming in the rivers, hand walking, and a lot of other stuff. As a former boxer, Shingo Inoue wanted to raise perfect athletes, and it seems like he succeeded in that with Naoya. The boy quickly progressed and improved his body and boxing technique at different tournaments. The amateur career of a skinny Japanese young man was decent, but not outstanding. However, Kabutsu happened to be inimitable at the pro scene. A young prodigy fought for the WBC title already in his 6th professional bout, and it was only the beginning. For 6 years of competing, Naoya established himself as the scariest puncher in the lighter weight classes and accepted the offer to fight at the World Boxing Super Series. After going through 2 world champions and 1 experienced veteran, Inoue collected 3 belts and ultimately unified all the titles in the rivalry with Paul Butler at the end of 2022. Feeling that he is far from his limit, the Japanese gained a bit of weight to compete in the super bantamweight division and knocked the giant in Stephen Fulton in his debut, snatching all of his titles. Now, the monster is set to face the holder of other belts, a formidable but relatively unknown Marlon Tapales. What do we know about the guy named Maranding Nightmare? If you asked me to describe Marlon's career briefly but clearly, I would say this: a hard-working guy, a level above average who doesn't always get what he deserves. Tapales began his career very early at 16 and almost immediately suffered his first loss, after which he pulled himself together and racked up an amazing streak of 13 victories. Of course, almost all of the fights took place at his home soil, Philippines, and the style of Tapales was never that flashy, so it wasn't meant for the guy to get a huge following. However, it didn't stop Marlon from becoming a contender for one of the WBC second-class belts. That fight did not go really well for the guy, but soon after, the Filipino conquered his first title in the career of one of the major organizations. Back then, Tapales fought in the bantamweight division and the WBO championship was on the line. His opponent did his best, but by the 11th round, he was battered and finished by an ever-fresh Marlon. Unfortunately, Maranding Nightmare couldn't hold on to his throne for too long, as he failed to make weight for his first defense and lost his championship. Not willing to take any more risk with the weight cutting, Tapales moved up and after a couple of fights got the title shot but lost the fight via knockout. Since that moment, Marlon has been wandering outside of the main contenders list until in the spring of 2023. He found himself in the ring with a young and very promising champion, Murojon Akmadalier. A fired-up technician with an unreal amateur career was supposed to eat poor Tapales alive. However, the veteran had a decent preparation and suddenly earned a split decision victory, becoming the champion in 2 organizations. Now, when you have the full story before your eyes, let's get to the technique. Technique. Despite the absence of big interviews and frequent appearances in the media, right now, Naoya is one of the biggest boxing stars, and all that thanks to his unbelievable boxing skills. And what exactly can he do so well that other guys can't? In fact, Inoue doesn't show anything brand new or something we haven't seen before. He simply puts in his polished work. And like any other good boxer, all of the Japanese's offense and defense goes from his legs, which always move forward and so quickly that one is not able to catch up. For Stephen Fulton, who is famous for his speed, it was a surprise how fast this guy can step behind his lead leg and land vicious shots. By the way, despite incredible speed, when Inoue throws his punches, his legs are always glued to the ground, which makes his strikes way more powerful than those of the other guys. And that's mostly the secret behind his hellish knockout power. Frankly speaking, I don't understand how the monster can be stable and plastic at the same time, so let's leave that for the comments below this video while we talk about the champion's punches. Again, pure boxing classic, but way more improved due to small different details like his legs and very good timing. Naoya doesn't only see, he feels when his opponent wants to attack and acts proactively or simply catches his opponent out of position. Most of the time, Kaibutsu prefers to work with combinations of 2 to 3 punches with a switch to the body. A constant threat to get hit not only to the head but also to the liver makes his opponents get confused and become even more vulnerable, and he knows that very well. Sometimes there are situations when Inoue needs to work with single shots, and at these moments he doesn't slow down and continues to pressure, pushing the pace. The champion's defense is also decent and consists of a combination of head and body movement. Inoue doesn't like to block with his hands and prefers to work without it. I think that we said enough about Inoue's style, and it's time to discuss Marlon, and there is definitely a lot to talk about. Tapales is only 31, but considering his early start, the guy's already a veteran, which doesn't really stop him from making significant improvements. If we look at how the Filipino boxed in 2019 when he had his last loss and how he fought Murujon this year, you wouldn't be able to immediately tell that it's the same boxer. In 4 years, the Southpaw champion improved everywhere, from defense to movement, and we have to break everything down separately. In the past, Tapales was relying on his reactions and often ducked under the punches, which made him vulnerable to uppercuts, and now he always keeps his left hand at the chin and moves to the sides with his mobile and fast legs. While the previous version of Maranding Nightmare preferred to invest in the combinations of looping shots and hope for the best, now he puts power in his shots only when he is confident they will land, and an uppercut is definitely his favorite strike. To land a precise and powerful punch with his strong hand, Marlon can quickly get in close range, but sometimes he catches his opponents off guard and attacks with a lead hand uppercut. On top of that, the Filipino also upgraded his southpaw stance. Now he is better at feeling the distance and controlling the position of his body as a smart southpaw should do. Among some flaws of Marlon's technique, we can mention a rather slow pace, the lack of long combinations, and also rare attacks to the body. Yes, Tapales doesn't ignore such an important aspect of boxing like body punches, but when he does throw to the midsection, most of the times it's just jabs that do no damage. Endurance and mentality. Like any other Japanese perfectionist, Inoue is great in every aspect of the fight, and cardio is not an exception. Sure, we haven't seen Kaibutsu going a long distance in the bantamweight division yet. However, in his original weight class, Naoya demonstrated incredible conditioning that allowed him to tirelessly bully the best boxers of the weight class around and then knock them out. And we don't have any reasons to think that he doesn't have that anymore. In fact, considering how hard Inoue likes to hit and eagerness with which he pushes the pace, it's really surprising that he has enough cardio to do all of that. I think that during the preparation, Master Shingo dedicated a lot of time to that game plan. In Marlon's case, there are issues with his endurance. No, he doesn't show any evident fatigue, but definitely slows down in the second half of the fight for like 20 to 30%, even if everything goes according to plan. However, in the last 4 years, we saw only 2 fights of Tapales that lasted longer than 2 rounds, so it's hard to make any definitive conclusions, but Inoue still wins in this regard. It would be a waste of time to talk about the psychological aspect in such a fight for too long, so let's get straight to the point. I have already said that the Japanese is a complete fighter, and that includes mentality. Naoya's eyes do not show any doubts, apathy, or stress. He simply goes out to destroy his target, quickly and with no regret. As for Marlon, he is always on positive vibes, smiles in the camera, and is kind to every opponent. Such behavior can be explained with a mindset, as Pacquiao and other athletes from the Philippines always conduct themselves in a similar manner. We don't really know what happens in Tapales' mind, but that doesn't give us any reasons to doubt his mental attitude. In terms of mentality, we have a parity. Conclusion. Do you know what is the main difference between Marlon and Naoya? The first one sees the mistakes of his opponents and punishes them for that, while the other one goes forward and makes people make these mistakes. And this unobvious difference is the main reason why Inoue is most likely going to win this fight. Tapales can wait for the champion to make mistakes as long as he wants, but there will be like 2 to 3 of them in the entire fight. But how many times will Kaibutsu make Marlon get out of position and expose his chin? 10, maybe 20, and perhaps even more times, because Naoya learned to manipulate the actions of his opponents. In other words, he forces them to make mistakes, for which he has a lot of different tools. And also, let's not forget that only one opponent of Maranding Nightmare in the last 4 years was an elite boxer. The rest were as far from the top 5 as Tyson Fury from being a Mr. Olympia. To wait for a mistake from the guys of such a level is a decent approach, and to such an extent that Marlon needed only 2 rounds to get the victory, but that won't work against Naoya. As soon as the fight starts, the monster will go forward with a jab and a ready straight, while Tapales will spend a couple of minutes feeling him out and preparing to exchange. When everything is set and the real fight starts, we'll see how Naoya pulls the Filipino and counters him with single shots or combinations. When Inoue stuns Marlon with one of his shots, and that is likely going to happen, he will go forward with such a barrage of punches that everybody in the ring can get it, so the referee should be more cautious. Okay, jokes aside, Naoya will most likely catch Tapales being sloppy and wobble him and then finish him. A clean KO is unlikely. If Maranding Nightmare will be very cautious and throw 3 jabs in a round, the fight can go longer. But in the distance, Kaibutsu still has an advantage and he can speed up after the middle of the bout. Let's not forget about the difference in gas tanks. Does this fight have any chances to go to a decision? There are some, but most likely with a 118 to 112 score in favor of the new undisputed champion Naoya Inoue. What are the chances of Tapales? Well, one can argue that the southpaw style gives him a bit of advantage, as there were less of such boxers in the career of Kaibutsu than the orthodox ones, but I don't think it would be significant. Marlon gets a real opportunity to win only if Inoue lets him play by his rules, but that's not the monster style. Okay, my prediction, 75% for the win of Naoya Inoue, most likely by knockout before the championship rounds. With all due respect, I give Marlon only 25%, and I think that even the Filipino fans would agree with me. Right now, the monster looks too good to get beat by a decent southpaw with a heavy punch, who won his titles via split decision. But again, it's my personal opinion, and I express it based on my beliefs. Okay guys, now I want to hear your opinion in the comments below. Who is gonna win? Let's discuss.